just got a $695 million contract for a startup private equity firm for a startup drone company. Was it a mistake to go on the board? Yeah. They used that as the toe in the door to be able to call my family the Biden crime family without any evidence. The person that said that Joe Biden took a bribe to protect Burisma is sitting in a jail cell for lying to the FBI. I was transparent about what I got paid. I served my 5 years on the board, 3 of which were when my father was not in office in any shape or form. Then I left. Jared Kushner is right now negotiating a peace deal with the Ukrainians and the Russians with direct interest as it relates to the energy interest inside of Russia and their partners, whether it's in India, the Saudi Arabia, or what's going to about to happen with Nord Stream pipeline. A direct interest, taking $2.5 billion from partners to impact those changes. I served on a board for 2 years. You have every email that I've ever sent, every text message that I've ever sent. The one thing that they hung their hat on is a guy that was in Washington, D.C. at the time, was the secretary to the board, said, "Hey, Hunter, thank you. It was nice meeting your dad." And when she was walking out of a restaurant, and my dad was walking into a restaurant, and I introduced the two of them, and that's it.
I think
They started an impeachment investigation over this.
one question that a lot of people have, the 10% for the big guy remark.
Not from me. It's from a guy named James Gilliard, along with Tony something.
Bobulinski.
Okay. Yeah, Tony Bobulinski, who claims to know me so well. You know how many times I met Tony Bobulinski? Maybe 4, maybe 3 times, in which I told him to go fuck himself and that I wouldn't do business with him. They're negotiating a deal, not having, by the way, anything to do with Burisma, was starting a U.S. entity of a Chinese energy firm. They wanted to partner and create an investment vehicle. James Gilliard, not me, sends an email to 6 other people, including Tony Bobulinski, in which I'm CC'd on, in which he proposes equity splits, of which he says 10% for the big guy. Number 1 was occurring when my dad was out of office and was not a candidate for president and was 2 years away from being vice president, and his career public service, according to everybody else, was over. So number 1, who gives a fuck? Number 2, I didn't say that. And number 3, it never happened. So 10% for the big guy, go fuck yourself. My dad has given 40 years of his tax returns. You have every tax return I've ever had. You can go find them on the internet. I had the DOJ, the FBI, the Oversight Committee, Judiciary Committee, Ways and Means Committee, in both the House and the Senate, the U.S. Attorney's Office in L.A., and D.C., Baltimore, Delaware, Pittsburgh, all investigate me.
Holy shit.
At the behest of Donald Trump beginning in 2017. And what did they come up with? They never did a deal. If James Gilliard sent that, and his intent was, maybe he's going to be able to get former Vice President of the United States to be, somehow involved in this, then why wouldn't he be able to say that? Are you kidding me? He's selling. I will be surprised if, when they leave this White House, that the copper pipes are still in the walls. I'm not joking. It is the most...
Yeah, he's right, man. It's totally insane how they are grifting right now in the White House. But, the Bidens weren't innocent either. I'm not saying they were. But the level of grift right now is just out of control. And, yeah, 3 more years of... Donald Trump already made $3 billion or something like that this year. Like 80% of his worth, his total value, he made while in the White House with his shit coins and his grifting, his taking money from Saudi Arabia, the $400 million plane from Qatar. I mean, the grift is unreal with this president. So anyway, guys, welcome back to the SpinCycle. I'm just doing my daily TikTok For You page. Let's see what else we got in here. That's Hunter Biden, if you don't know that. He's the one that the Republicans investigated for like 4 years. Yeah, and he was fucked up. He did some stupid shit. He was on drugs, banging random women, living the life because his dad was, at the time, vice president, to be honest. And then not president at all, out of office, and everything they investigated Hunter Biden on, like he said, happened before Biden was president. Don't get me wrong, I don't like Biden. I think Bernie Sanders should have been president in 2015. I think he should have been president in 2020. If it wasn't for the Democrat Party, throwing their weight around, he would have been. If it was just up to the Democratic, voters, Bernie would have been in.
I'm going to tell the story about my husband being taken by ICE in the middle of our green card interview. So for starters, when we were taken back for our interview, they took us past like 20 open offices. Like, I'm talking not a person, not a computer, nothing on the walls, and they took us to the absolute last office right next to the back stairwell. And we then proceed to, participate in our interview. We had our attorney there for everyone asking. Yes, we had a specific immigration attorney. And we proceeded to go through our interview. And then at one point, the woman who was doing our interview takes her key card out of the computer and just says, "I have people in the hallway waiting to speak with you." And at that time, 4 ICE agents came into the room. "We have a warrant for your arrest," kind of shaking it around, not really. I was so in shock that I didn't think to look at it. I was like, this is not happening. I can't believe this is happening. They proceed to handcuff my husband. And I asked one of the agents, I said, "Can I please bring him his glasses?" We had left his glasses at home, and it still makes me emotional now because he asked me on the way to turn around for his glasses, and I was like, "No, we don't have time, we're running late." And I just asked the ICE agent, I said, "Can I please bring him his glasses?" And he said, "After someone is put in custody, anything you bring them is considered contraband." And then they proceed to give me this, and this, they said, would answer any further questions I may have. It doesn't, by the way. And obviously you can't see it this way, but on the front of this card, it literally says verbatim, "Check out the worst of the worst. Who is ICE arresting in your community?" And split us up. They take him out the back and into an unmarked van that was waiting, and then they take me and parade me through the waiting room of people waiting for their interviews. I cannot imagine the fear that it instilled. Everyone watched me walk back with my husband, and everyone watched me walk out without him, fall to my knees and weep. And I cannot stress enough how they must have been feeling after that. And I can't help but insinuate that that had to be intentional, because a lot of things have happened since then that can't be explained other than going through processes trying to instill fear to get people to not continue in these legal processes. I have since heard from my husband, and he had mentioned that when he was taken out and put in the van in the back of the USCIS office, there were already some people waiting in there, and the driver was like, "5 more, we can fit 5 more, go get 5 more." And then this QR code is supposed to tell you where your significant other ends up. You're supposed to be able to track them. However, it takes about 30 hours for them to book these people into a detention center. The entire time, no shower, no brushing your teeth. They keep the lights on at all times so no one's getting sleep. It's absolutely inhumane. He proceeds to tell me that they also had him signing things regarding upcoming hearings. The issue with that being, I told you he can't read without his glasses. Why are you having him sign things and not really giving them an option but to sign, because they don't know what they're supposed to be doing and they're going to do what you say, signing things that they can't see.
All right, folks, this is huge. Epstein survivor Lisa Phillips just dropped a bombshell on Donald Trump and his Department of Justice. It is certainly not the news they were hoping to get today on Christmas. So Lisa Phillips just announced that her and other Epstein survivors have been working behind the scenes together to compile their own so-called client list. Now remember, Trump, Kash Patel, Pam Bondi said there is no client list and that they weren't trafficked to anybody but Epstein. These survivors are calling BS, and they're willing to expose what the government won't. So I'm going to show you what she had to say on the Legal AF.
That's because Trump's on the client list.
Podcast. Before we do any of that, make sure to subscribe down below, drop a like on the video, comment, let me know what you think about this story. I would normally be wearing a Christmas hat in this video for Christmas, but it's a more serious topic. But I do hope you are enjoying your Christmas with your family, friends, and loved ones, or just celebrating whatever holidays you celebrate. Now, let's listen to what Lisa Phillips had to say, and then we'll talk about it after.
Well, what are the survivors doing behind the backdrop with you and others in leadership to kind of compare notes and start, we always said, and I think you said it at one of your press conferences, if they're not going to release the client list, we can put our notes together and our heads together and come up with a pretty good one. But we're going to sit back and let the government do the right thing, knowing that we are here on the sideline to make them honest. Are there things in the works related to that?
Well, I spoke out and said that, if you're not going to do your job, we'll do it. And it wasn't specifically, the files, if you're not going to release the files. We knew they would release some files. We were willing to let them do their job. But on the background, I was doing my own job with other survivors. And as I spoke out, there were many survivors that came forward. And together, we were just comparing notes, working with people in Congress. We can't identify which house and who they are. We'll have an announcement probably coming up in January about our findings. But as it relates to what I said in September, the survivor community is strong. And as we connect the dots together, we started realizing, well, wait a second, some of us were sent to the same guy in Hollywood for a movie audition. Some of us went to the same modeling agency where they were sending models back and forth, got in the modeling industry part. And then we realized there was 2 institutions that Epstein was sending, girls to. Can't really say too much, but it was a bombshell revelation. It revealed something about my past, which I thought was just unique to myself. But as I started talking to other survivors,
Yeah, there's no way that Trump's getting out from underneath this. He's trying to get away with this, hide in the Epstein files, because he's all over the Epstein files, and he's not going to get away with it. People care more about exposing the Epstein files than they do care about protecting Donald Trump. Even MAGA, especially MAGA, I might say.
You're saying they're redacting this stuff to protect the victims. I just showed you a file where the only thing redacted is Donald Trump's name. Why would they do that?
What did it say in there exactly? Could you tell me exactly what it said? Then
That's
could give you an
protecting the
opinion
perpetrator.
if it's true or not?
I'm going to read it to you. Another friend was one of the many girls that had sexual relations with Donald Trump. She confided in me about her casual friendship with Donald Trump. Definitely seemed to have a thing for her. Said Donald Trump definitely seemed to have a thing for her. And she told me how he kept going on about how he liked her pert. Donald Trump liked flicking and sucking her until they were raw. One evening when we were showering together, she showed me her.
Holy shit, I didn't read that one.
As they were red and swollen, and I remember wincing when I looked at them. I also know she had sexual relations with Donald Trump at Jeffrey
Trump's
Epstein's
guilty.
New York mansion on regular occasions, and I once met Trump for coffee just before she was going to meet Trump and Epstein together at his mansion. That's what's in that file. This is it's an eyewitness account of a victim of Epstein and Trump. The name Trump is redacted in that. Obviously, Trump would not want this to come out. That's the only name redacted in it.
Yeah, I just don't believe it. I'm sorry, I don't believe it.
Why?
I think they're trying to take him down again.
You're saying they're redacting this stuff to protect the victims. I just showed you a file where the only thing redacted is Donald Trump's name. Why would they do that?
What did it say in there exactly? Could you tell me exactly what it said? Then I could give you an opinion if it's true or not.
I'm going to read it to you. Another friend was one of the many girls that had sexual relations with Donald Trump. She confided in me about her casual friendship with Donald Trump. Definitely seemed to have a thing for her. Said Donald Trump definitely seemed to have a thing for her. And she told me how he kept going on about how he liked her pert. Donald Trump liked flicking and sucking her until they were raw.